Hi, I'm Nick Kramer with NK Custom Bricks. This year I've brought quite a bit of stuff. The kind of the showcases this year are the B-1 bomber, the bone. I made that 2 years ago during COVID, and just been kind of sitting waiting for a good show to bring it out to, and this is it. So um, about 6,000 pieces. The wings sweep back, the control surfaces move, the gear folds, all that stuff. It's a little bit heavy, so I don't really want to risk putting it on the gear too much. So, but other than that,
Can you tell us a little bit about the history of this aircraft?
not really. I know a little bit about it. I'm not a huge history buff or anything like that. I'll do a little bit of research into my build and stuff like that, but mostly it's just I'll find an aircraft or a ship or something that I like that has some clean lines and just looks kind of unique. Something that looks kind of challenging, and I'll just kind of give it a try and go from there.
So, I mean, it is a very impressive looking aircraft. Take us through some more of the design features then in terms of the wings and how this came together for you.
So a lot of these with the swept wing, like the bombers or whether they're fighters or whatever that I've designed, that's kind of like the key component as far as the swept wing, which kind of interferes with the internal structure and all that stuff. So that's kind of design point number one, is trying to not only get the shaping of the wings, but trying to get the actual correct movement and the correct angles of when they're swept and forward, and then trying to find a way to support them so they don't start bending or breaking off at the same time. And then I'll focus on the gear, trying to get the gear to look and function as close to what the actual aircraft does. Build the frame up from there, and then start adding in control surfaces and details, and pretty much as I can pack into it, and without trying to go overboard.
You even got the cockpit with some minifigures in there, so a lot of great detail.
Yeah, there's the full cockpit in there, and the rear seat, two rear seats in there as well, as for the navigator and engineers and all that stuff. As far as the rest of the aircraft, it's mostly taken up by the three internal bomb bays, which are functional and accessible. And then, as far as, like I said, it's a lot of room for the mechanics to make the wing sweep, the gear bays, and then still trying to leave a little bit of room to hold it all together.
And I love the way that you display this as well with the glass there, so you can kind of get a nice view of the underbelly.
Yeah, especially for the bombers, I've really liked using the mirrors to kind of be able to allow people to see that, because I mean that's kind of the key feature of this aircraft. And I mean, why not show it off? I mean, if I'm going to spend all the time to make all that stuff under their work and look right, I want people to see it.
Sure, yeah, so people can appreciate it more. And then on the glass, what all do you have laid out there?
Just a couple small little builds I made. It was one of the bomb loader, the lift trucks that actually raises some of the older bombs into the bomb bays. On the other side is kind of like the newer, the cylindrical bomb dispenser, if you will. I don't know the technical term off the top of my head right now, but that's situated more for different types of loadouts, whether they're bombs or the newer cruise missiles or whatever. So, but I incorporated that, and then also an internal fuselage or a fuel tank that they can also use in the bomb bays. So, as far as the bone that's just sitting there, that was just something that kind of popped into my head as I was designing it, and thought it was kind of fun. Put the ordnance down of what it can actually carry, whether they're the Mark 82 500 pounds or the Mark 84 100 pound or 1,000 pounders. And then I just kind of wanted something knowing with the late night world of lights, I wanted something to kind of light it up at night. So I put the red X crosshairs, if you will, on the bottom, and then just kind of gave it a little bit of light to show it off at night.
So it's quite a large model here. When you bring this to a show, how does this transport?
Big. The wings do pop off. It takes a little bit to get in there and disconnect them, but otherwise, once I get the tail off and the wings, I kind of made a self little crate, if you will, that it just kind of packs into nice, and it's actually not that bad to transport and carry around.
And you mentioned lights, so let's take a look at your Mustang model over here as well, which has some fantastic lighting and action going on there.
I really like Brick Stuff's lighting systems. I kind of got hooked on those years ago. I dabble in trying to incorporate those into several different builds. I really like some of the effects that you can get, especially like the machine gun fire. It's just something different you really don't see a lot. And like I said, I just like to kind of incorporate and try different things as they kind of pop into my head. So.
And you've got a fantastic array of planes and even submarines, even some like missiles back there. How do you decide in terms of like what you're going to build next and where you get that inspiration from?
I really don't plan anything. It's just kind of what pops into my head, or if I'm going through Instagram or whatever, Google, and something kind of just catches my eye with some post. I'm like, oh, it's kind of a neat aircraft, or give that a try. Or as far as like the missiles and the train and some of the other stuff, it's just kind of like I want to try something different. I really focus on planes a lot. Let's try a ship, or let's try a plane, or I really haven't ventured into like land vehicles much, so who knows, that might be next.
You've got another really impressive plane model down here as well. So this is the Orion. What can you tell us about this one?
That's the P-3 Orion, the famed sub-hunter for the U.S. Navy and a couple other overseas navies. That's one of my most recent builds as far as for this year specifically. That one was kind of one of the first planes that I actually started designing to take apart and transport. A lot of the other bigger stuff, they're kind of built as one solid piece, which is great for at home and building and structural and displaying them for myself, but for transporting, not the greatest. Kind of like the battleship. A 6-foot ship is kind of not easy to transport. But went through. It's got the hollow interior. It can be fully decked out. It's got the full cockpit and accessible gear, the opening bomb bay, and again I use the glass to kind of be able to see the undersurface, be able to see the gear bay, the bomb bay, the missile loadout, all that stuff. So.
And this one has the propellers as well, so kind of a different design technique on this compared to some of your others.
Yeah, I try. They're more of the bigger paddle type prop blades. I wanted to keep them as thin as possible. Usually a lot of the prop blades you find are like the 2-plate thickness just for holding everything together. But I tried something different and trying to get the correct color scheme and still kind of keep it one tile thick was a little bit of a challenge, but it all worked out.
And a lot of your planes are various shades of gray here. So what is that like for your collection in terms of finding those pieces and keeping all that on hand?
The grays are pretty nice. They're very popular with all the Star Wars sets and all that stuff. It's a very common military color now with the two-tone grays and all that. When it starts getting tricky is when you start getting the colors and the camouflage schemes. Obviously, some of the availability and pricing starts going up, so the grays are nice to work with.
You've got a nice example of that camouflage over here, kind of something very different from a lot of your other ones. This is the Su-25 here. So how did this come together for you then, being very different from a lot of the others?
A lot of the blue that light blue was kind of hard to find for some of the pieces that I needed. A lot of that was international, like Bricklink orders, just trying to find it, and then trying to actually find it in quantities of trying to have the option to release it as a small batch kit in the near future.
And I know you've got your NK custom bricks sign back there, nicely brick built. So tell us a little about kind of where you post your builds online. Where can people find more photos?
Instagram's my primary platform. That's where I pretty much post all of my builds, the progress, all the updates, anything like that, anything of the business related. But as far as the website, as far as for some of the instructions that I offer, the kits that I offer, or anybody that's interested in the whiskey club that has some discount and other incentives, that's all at www.nkcustombricks.com.
Fantastic work here. Thanks for taking us through some of your displays.